with a lot of participants. That's good.
Yes, we will wait until everybody has switched off the camera, and then we can start. You can switch off the camera if you go to your screen, to the bottom left, and please click the video icon, so you switch off the camera. Thank you. There is still one person with the camera on. Can you switch it off, please?
Well, I think we can start.
Yes, we will start. Good afternoon to everyone joining this meeting from China. I'm very pleased to see we have many participants. So I think we will start the meeting now. And if I can have the next slide. I will first start a little introduction. So I am very glad that so many people from China are joining this meeting for the training program Sustainable Pig Farming China. My name is Janneke Janssens. I am your host for today. And I am joined by two colleagues, Mark Kuipers and Huey Lee, which is our translator from China. Before we start, I want to give some thanks to Chinese associations that shared this masterclass with you to make it possible that as many people can join as possible. So that's the China Association for the Promotion of International Agricultural Cooperation. Thank you very much. Lehman China Swine Conference and Chinese Animal Husbandry Association. Thank you very much for sharing this link so a lot of people can join this meeting today and also the other meetings. So as you can see in the screen, I have presented the program for the meeting today. First, I will give you an introduction, a general introduction to the training program Sustainable Pig Farming China. Afterwards, we will have two presentations by experts from the Netherlands. You can see this in the program. It's important to know that if you have any questions, you can ask them in the chat. And after each presentation, we will have one or two urgent questions answered. And after all the presentations, there is about 15 minutes so we can answer some questions. 15 minutes.
Yeah, 15 minutes.
If we cannot answer your question directly, we will collect all the questions and share the frequently asked questions with you later. So that's the practical side of this program. Now I will introduce you shortly to the training program Sustainable Pig Farming China. Can I have the next slide, please? So about this training program, it is known that the Dutch pig industry is very well performing. It is known worldwide for its performance. Can I have the next slide? That's one slide back, please. Thank you. We also have seen that the Chinese pig industry has developed a growing interest in the application of the knowledge and technology from the Netherlands, because the Chinese pig industry wants to develop and grow and get to the performance level of the Dutch industry. That is why 11 Dutch companies have united themselves in the Partners for International Business program, Sustainable Pig Farming China. This program is supported by the Dutch government and the Dutch embassy in China, with network and also with budget. The ultimate goal of this program is to transfer knowledge and support the development of the Chinese pig industry with Dutch technology and tools. You can see the participating companies in this slide. It's important that training is a part of the knowledge transfer program. And that's why we are having this online masterclass today, and also a follow-up training program. And this program is executed by the Pig Signals company, which I am the director of, and also my colleague Mark, who is also in this meeting. I will tell you a little bit of background about the Pig Signals company, so you know where we are coming from. I think almost everyone in China knows the Pig Signals books. Can I have the next slide, please? The Pig Signals books are well known in China for many, many years. It's a practical guide to animal-focused pig farming. Because we had a lot of questions about training people based on this content, we set up a separate training company and consultancy company for Pig Signals in 2023. Our goal is to help pig farmers all around the world to improve their performance with the knowledge provided from the Pig Signals concept, but also the knowledge from Dutch companies who provide technology and tools. This should lead to a better understanding and improvement of farm management. Also, a better understanding of animal biology and behavior to detect suboptimal performance and be proactive in the management. Also, it is set to improve animal health management, which is also an important issue in China. Besides that, animal welfare is becoming more and more important. We have a lot of experience with that in the Netherlands. So our goal is also to improve the animal welfare management. Also, we can help farms in China to develop a good team structure and cooperation within farms, so you can really have a good cooperating team. And our final goal is to develop the knowledge and skills of people at all organizational levels. Can I have the next slide? This training program Sustainable Pig Farming China consists of three parts. First is the online masterclass that you are participating in now. This is open to all interested owners and managers of Chinese pig farms and also research and educational institutes. Besides that, we have a program for training of trainers. I will explain a little bit about that later. And a program for training of farm managers. After following this online masterclass, interested trainers and managers can apply for participation in the training of trainers and training of managers program. We will select a group of participants based on their CV and motivational letter. This selection procedure will be outlined at the final session of the online masterclass, February 18, 2025. So please be aware that you also follow this session if you are interested in the practical training program. Next slide, please. So first, this online masterclass. Today, January 7th, we will guide you into the key developments and figures of the Dutch pig industry. As I already showed you, we have two expert speakers with a presentation about the development of the Dutch pig industry. Next week, January 14th, the subject will be animal health management and biosecurity. Also, there will be expert speakers explaining how to get a perfectly balanced approach. The next session will be Tuesday, February 18, after the Chinese New Year. This session will be dedicated to animal-centered management. You will also hear that in the first expert lecture today. Building the system around the pig is very important to get to a good performance. After the online masterclass, participants will have a general insight in the key developments and success factors of the Dutch pig industry. And then you could apply for the training of trainers or training of managers program to get a more in-depth insight in the application of knowledge and technology. A little bit more, next slide please. A little bit more about the training of managers program. This will be 1 week of live training on farm, combining theory and practice. This training is aimed at managers of Chinese pig farms. Some subjects: general farm management, so management structure, also team management, animal health management and biosecurity, animal welfare management, and production efficiency. You will get online and offline learning tools, and we will share best practices, which will be an important part of the training program. This program will conclude with an exam. This consists of theoretical tests and a demonstration of practical skills. Managers that pass the exam will receive a certificate. Next slide, please. Then there's the training of trainers program. This is especially aimed at people that are trainers within large corporations or organizations in China, or trainers from educational institutes. This program is 3 weeks of live training. Week 1, the trainers will all follow first the training of managers program. We have to make sure that their technical and practical knowledge is at a required level to also train other people. This week will also be concluded by a theoretical and practical exam. Participants that pass this exam can go on to the second week. This program will focus on educational competences and skills, so that we know that people can correctly transfer the knowledge to other people. Also, this week concludes with a practical exam within the group to demonstrate educational skills. Week 3 will be the final assessment for the trainers. Then the trainers will assist us at the Training of Managers program. So they will help us and also do parts themselves to train a selected group of Chinese pig farm managers, also in cooperation with the PIB partners companies, making use of all the training tools provided. Trainers that pass this final test will receive a trainer certificate. Next slide, please. Some practical aspects regarding the training program. Application for the Training of Trainers and Training of Managers program will be opened directly after the final session of the online masterclass. So this means directly after February 18, 2025. We will share a link with you to upload CV and motivational letters in the WeChat training groups that we created. Selected participants to the Training of Trainers and Training of Managers program will need to cover for their own traveling expenses. That's important to know. There might also be an additional fee for lodging and meals, depending on the training location and the training facilities. We will share this information with you during the final session of the online masterclass, February 18. Also, please stay connected to the WeChat training groups to get the latest information and updates. This was a short introduction from my side to the training program. I don't know if there are any questions in the group chat. I can answer 1 or 2 questions. If not, you can also put questions in the group chat and we can discuss them later or answer them through WeChat. Mark and Lee, can you see if there are any questions? I don't see any questions.
I believe there's no questions so far.
Okay. So like I said, if you have any questions, you can put them in the group chat of this meeting. You can click on the chat icon here in the meeting, in the online meeting room, so we can collect your questions. Can I have the next slide, please?
Yeah, this is the last one.
Yes. So this was my introduction to this training program. I can see we are a little bit ahead of time, but that's no problem. So I think I will invite the next speaker now to the floor. This is Bino Zwanenburg. He will introduce himself and he will talk about the Dutch approach in pig farming and the development of the industry in the Netherlands during the past 30 years. Bino, the floor is yours. I wish you good luck. And please, again, if you have any questions, put them in the chat.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Janneke, can you confirm
Yes.
if you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so
it's loud and clear.
Loud and clear, so that's good. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope my slides can be put on. Yes. What I was saying, good afternoon, everybody, and good morning to the participants joining from the Netherlands. I've been asked to take you along some developments in the pig industry, and especially take you along some lessons learned we have done in our industry that made us successful. And these lessons learned, we want to share this in this masterclass, so you can see and you can also understand how the Dutch pig industry becomes such an important and also successful player in the worldwide pig industry, and mentioned often as an example. So I try to take you along in that development. So I wish you a lot of knowledge in this session. Maybe next slide, please. My name is Wino Zwanenburg, and throughout my life I have been working in the pig industry as an entrepreneur, so managing and having pig farms, being operational in the pig farms myself, but also with my staff, but also in public positions in our industry. The pig industry in the Netherlands is well organized, but pig farmers don't only have to do with companies around them, like feed companies and slaughterhouses, but they also have to face politics and policies. So I was also involved as a president for the pig farmers organization and at the moment I'm the chairman of the total pig industry in our country, and that representing not only the pig farmers but also the feeding industry, slaughterhouses, banks, genetic companies, and so on. Maybe next slide, please. This sounds maybe a little peculiar. This is a phrase from Winston Churchill, an important European person: never let a good crisis go to waste. And what he meant by this quote was that he said, okay, when there is a crisis, you are totally focusing on the crisis itself, but you also should see that the crisis could give an opportunity to change things and to transform it to the better. So this is a phrase that is often used: never let a good crisis go to waste. So when there is a crisis, also be aware of the fact that this crisis can lead to something better. And that is what happened in our industry. Next slide, please. Can we go to the next slide? Yes. Thank you very much. But before we go to some examples of that, it's very important to know what the DNA and the culture of the Dutch pig industry is, and the people working in the industry. It's very important to know that they are very much entrepreneurs and very independent. That means that we don't have big integrations where there are farms and slaughterhouses and feeding companies within one company, but these are all individual companies who are competing in the industry. We are also a very much a trader society, because the Netherlands is a very small country and we trade all over the world. So it's very important to us that we have a good connections with our markets, but that we are also able to change ourselves and to adapt ourselves to the markets we want to deliver. And that leads to the fact that we have to become innovative. So we have to adapt sometimes to changing markets and market circumstances. And that means that you have to innovate. You cannot make a product and then see if the market will buy it. You have to be adapting to the market. What's also very important for us, for me to point out here, is that we have a very open way of sharing knowledge in our industry, not only within our farms, where the farm owner, but also the management and the people who work in the farms share experience and insights, but also knowledge, but also within the industry. So within competing pig farms, but also the feeding companies, the slaughterhouses, other companies in the industry. We have a very open way of sharing knowledge. And sharing knowledge means not only when somebody is successful, he shares knowledge, but also sometimes when there is a failure, because somebody's trying something and it failed. It's not uncommon to share that knowledge, and that doesn't mean that somebody has failed, but you try to prevent the others to make the same mistake. And we are very professional. That means that all our farms, and I will come to that later, are professional pig farms. In some countries in the world, a lot of farms are mixed farms with all kinds of animals, but in our country, the farms have become specialized pig farms. And last but not least, in our industry and in the Netherlands, people are very down to earth. We are very much fact-based, and we try to act as that in the industry as well. So fact-based, science-proved, so things has to be proven in practice before we believe it. So that means that that everybody is very down to earth, and we keep on learning all the time. That's very important to state here as well. Our industry is already for many decades very successful, but we still learn every time. We have new insights, new techniques, not only in the industry but also outside the industry, that helps us to improve our results and even improve that we can use less labor to be even more efficient. Maybe next slide, please. And this doesn't look very nice, this picture I put on this slide, but it points out one of the crises we had in our history, in our pig industry. In 1997, we had a big crisis. There was a classical swine fever outbreak in our country. And for the classical swine fever at that time, it was not allowed to vaccinate. So the only way to get rid of this disease was using stamping out and culling infected farms. That had a huge impact on the industry, but also gave us a wake-up call. A wake-up call to be more to pay more attention to specific aspects within our industry, but also within our farm. So it raised our awareness for biosecurity, and I think I have some experience in China, and I think that biosecurity awareness in China is also very good at the moment. But it also became very more clear throughout the African swine fever that biosecurity is so important. But not only biosecurity is very important, also we made arrangements within our industry, within our country, arrangements that it's not easy to transport pigs from one farm to the other. Before this crisis, it was quite common to transport pigs to other farms, vice versa. And that's not allowed anymore. There was strict regulation on that at the moment. But also strict regulations on visitors coming to the farm. But also strict regulations on national surveillance. What we did in our country, and it's still operational and it's very successful, is that on a national level, we monitor the animal health on all the farms, and we share that knowledge. So when there is an outbreak of any other kind of disease, we know where it's at, but we also can take precautions if needed. So we share this knowledge for a common benefit, because everybody has a gain when this animal outbreak, this disease is captured. And for us, it's very important to have this instrument, because we are, what I was mentioning, we are traders. We sell our meat and pigs all over the world. And it's very important that people who buy the meat or buy the pigs know that we have a very high standard, and they are not facing all kinds of food safety, but also health issues with the pigs. So it's very important for our export position to have that in place. And also it's very important, and that's more maybe a European thing, it's very important in our public debate. We are a very small country, but a lot of people live in our country. So we are a very open society and we have to be transparent what is going on in the farms. So that also became aware during that crisis. So that's what I want to point out on this crisis. Next slide, please. But what also made us clear during that crisis was that we have to work together throughout the pork industry, that not only the pig farms and the farmers and people working on the farm, but also the feeding companies, the veterinarians, the slaughterhouses. We all have to cooperate because we have a common interest, and that common interest is to stay in business. And that means that we joined our organizations. We have several separate organizations of every part of the chain, but all these organizations are now presented in one organization, and I'm the chairman of that organization. And what we found out is that when we want to have high level performance as an industry and become more efficient, but also more productive, and at this moment, and I think after my presentation, Robert Hoster will give a presentation. He will go into the numbers, I think, about how efficient the Dutch pig industry is, but also how efficient the pig farms are and how productive we are. And you only can be productive when you work together as a team within the industry. And that is what happened. Next slide, please. Within the industry, we made an organization where we pointed out 5 very important areas, ambitions. And in the ambitions, we work together. It's about the circumstances where the farms are, about odor, stable facilities, etc. It's about circular economy. It's about climate and energy transition. That's a very hot topic. But also about robust, healthy, and environmental friendly pig farming, and especially the health part. I already pointed out is very important for us, because a healthy pig is also a very productive pig. And also we work together on a global scale. What I said, we sell not only the meat but also the pigs throughout the world. So it's very important that you can give guarantees about that there are no pig diseases, but also high food safety standards in our products, and we have to work together for that. For instance, the feed companies are crucial to deliver the right and the good feed with no hazard for food safety. Otherwise, the pig farmer cannot sell his pigs to a high level market. That's just one example how this cooperation works. Maybe next slide, please. And the title of this masterclass is all about sustainability. And in the sustainability means that we are market orientated in the sustainability. And what is a recent development in the last 10-15 years, in Europe we have consumers that are very critical about meat and meat products. They have very high demands. And when they have a demand that about food safety or demands about animal welfare or other specific demands, you have to give the guarantee and the proof that they face these guarantees. So what happens is that in our market, in our European market, we have several segments where farmers specifically produce for a specific consumer market. For instance, completely antibiotic-free meat is a market, but also with high welfare. And the last couple of years, also climate neutral meat has become a topic. And what I mentioned, then it's very important that the consumer has the confidence, but also the guarantee that if on the package it says that no antibiotic is used, that throughout the chain that guarantee can be given. What also has happened in our industry is that, and I pointed it out before, our farms are very highly specialized. That we don't only have specialized pig farms, but also within the pig farms, specialized fatness farms, piglet farms, but also specialized sow farms that sell the weaners to other farms. We used to export a lot more than we do nowadays, and export I mean within the European Union. In the European market, also transport regulations is becoming very strict. That means that the transport time of live piglets is reduced. That means that it becomes more important that you find your market where you want to deliver the pigs, your live pigs or piglets, is closer to home. So that means that also animal transport is a very important topic for us, not only when it comes to biosecurity and health of the animal, but also for a welfare point of view. And also what's became very important, and then we did not expect that 20 years ago, that we work together with organizations that are specifically looking after animal welfare or looking after environmental issues. These are NGOs. NGOs are non-governmental organizations who are representing citizens who have concerns about, for instance, animal welfare or concerns about environmental issues. And these NGOs are involved in some of our projects we have to give that guarantee, what I already explained, to the consumer that our products are really into the specific area. And what is very crucial for us, and that's I want to point it out here, is that we have the Netherlands is a small country. We are part of the European Union, but the European Union legislation is for us very important. And one of the things we found out throughout the development I just described about working together, cooperating, but also trying to make our industry more sustainable and adapting to the wishing of the consumers, is that we had to change our system, because when you want to have a system that's a pig farming system without antibiotics, or a pig farming system with higher animal health or animal welfare standards, we have to change sometimes things within the farm. And within the farm, I mean the design, but also maybe management. Maybe next slide, please. So we nowadays say that we don't force the pig into a system, but we fit the system to the pig. So more and more we look at the pig now to see, okay, what is the need of the pig, and try to fulfill that within our system. And keep in mind, a happy pig is also a pig that is highly performing. So it's not the case, especially that when you give a higher welfare standard to the pig, that he's performing less. And that it's a thing that we found out also throughout the years, because we came from the situation that we had a system and we tried to adapt the pig to the system. But nowadays we say, no, look at the pig and build our system, our housing system, but also our management system, a way of looking at our system, keep the pig in mind, and build it around the pig. Next slide, please. So some of these specific insights we made was about the design of the farm. Okay, even a little bit more space for the pigs, so living space, but also free range farrowing. It sounds maybe impossible a few years back that when a sow is walking around in a nursery, even the piglets are not being crushed by the sow, but it's possible. We have knowledge now that these systems work. We also adapted our management systems, not only internal biosecurity, but also treatments of the piglets, of not treating. What is a high topic in Europe at the moment is stop the tail docking. And that's quite an ambition, not ducking the tails of the pig anymore in our industry. But a few countries already have stopped with tail docking, and they are succeeding. But when you want to stop with tail docking, as an example, also feed is very important, the climate is very important, the design is important, but also farm management is very important. And also the health of the pig, because when a pig is not healthy, he acts different towards other pigs, and then not the ducking the tail can become even a danger for the pigs, because they will hurt themselves. What also became clear is when we more look at the pig, that also within our management we have to learn. And what I said before is that we keep learning all the time. That means that we also educate our staff in the farm all the time, so that we can learn from each other about the things we can improve. What's also important, and I already pointed that out, is the feed, because when you feed has a huge impact on the health, but also on the behavior of the pig, and that can also help to improve the results. But feed can also, when you add raw materials to the feed, that gives the animal more a fulfilled feeling, and means that the animal will be more relaxed in the pen, instead of giving feed without raw materials, as an example. So these are the things we learned. And also genetics is very important, that we have the right genetics, the right pig for the right system. And the last thing I mentioned on this slide is AI and sensoring, and that is a new development since the last couple of years. And I also noticed that it's a new development in China, that is using sensoring and AI with cameras to see what the real behavior and acting of the animals is, and to try to use that data to help the management, to help the people in the farms, but also to help to improve the needs, to fulfill the needs of the animal, but also in the end to raise performance and efficiency. And I think AI and camera systems and sensoring will have a huge impact. We see in some farms in our country that sensoring the climate within the farm has a huge impact also, or can help improving animal health, because when you have sensors in the stable and they sensor that the climate is not good, and you can change that through management, then also the climate of the pig becomes better, and you have less problems with animal health and other kinds of issues within the farm. Maybe next slide, please. Other thing that's a hot topic and management and health is the insight. We are very successful in our country with reducing antibiotics. That also had to do with the public debate, what was going on in Europe. And we have very strict regulations on antibiotics, not only in animal husbandry, but especially also in the human sector. We cannot go to the doctor and ask for antibiotics, because we have a very strict regulations on that. And that means that it's very important that the herd within the farm stays healthy. And that development on improving the health of the herd is very important, and gave us a lot of insight. And we use a lot of data for that. I already mentioned sensoring, but also insights on data on blood samples, all kinds of monitoring within the farm. not curing the pigs all the time with antibiotics, but try to keep the pigs healthy. And also in this, we keep learning all the time with new insights we see. And keep in mind, a healthy pig is also a profitable pig, because the efficiency and the results of the healthy pigs are much more better than of herds who have all kinds of diseases. And I also get the feedback that the people working in the farm have a lot of more joy in working in these farms when they have a herd that's complete healthy, because they perform a lot better. Next slide, please. And this is pointing out again the reduction of antibiotics that I mentioned. We have performed very well, because we came from a situation that we used a lot of antibiotics in the feed, but also in other in the water and injection. And we since the last couple of years reduced the 70% of our antibiotic use, and the antibiotic use at the moment is very limited. And also this, I pointed out that we do a lot of national monitoring in our country. Also, the use of antibiotics is monitored on a national scale. And every farm, but also every veterinarian involved in pig and pig health is monitored regarding the use of antibiotic and prescriptions of antibiotics. And we even have a system in place that our farms are categorized when they are antibiotic free, that they use just a little antibiotic, or if they use a lot of antibiotics. So also the slaughterhouses and the people in the industry know in which category the farm is performing. And you can imagine that everybody wants to be in the best category. Next slide, please. Very important to point out that we cooperate within in our pig chain, because everybody has a common interest in cooperation. I already mentioned the example of the export market. When you want to sell meat to other markets, you have to guarantee that there is no antibiotics in it, food safety, but also maybe other demands they have. So it's very important that we work together, also improving sustainability. I already mentioned the example of feed and the feed components that can be very important. We have a very sophisticated way of using leftover in the consumer industry in our feed for the pigs, and then we feed it to the pigs. So we also have a very good footprint in pig meat, because we use a lot of waste that is left over from human products, like potatoes, but like carrots, and like other kinds of products that are and dairy products, milk products that are left over, and we use it in the feed in a pig feed. So we cooperate a lot to improve our market position, so everybody has an interest to become better. And in the end, it's very important that everybody in the pig chain makes money, because when one of the parts in our pig chain does not make money, in the end, in the long run, it will hurt the total industry. But also cooperating within the farm, I want to point out again, within the farm, it's also important that, especially in the bigger farms, it's very important that the different aspects within the farm cooperate very well. When the insemination of the sows is done properly, then we have a lot of born piglets. And when the people in the nursery do a good job, also the quality of the piglets that go when the people in the farrowing do a good job, the people in the nursery get good quality piglets. And when you have good quality piglets, also the fattening pigs quality will be better. So also within the pig farm itself, when you want to improve your results through maybe animal health or also other kinds of other efficiency improvements, you have to cooperate within the farm. And that's also very important to point out, that within the farm, also people know what they are doing and that they are part of the bigger picture to improve. Next slide, please. And what's something I already mentioned, that it's about sensoring and data. The last couple of years, we managed to gather a lot of data about all things going on in the industry. And in the Dutch situation, a lot of data is shared throughout the industry. Slaughter data about the quality of the carcass and the meat goes back to the farmer. The farmer shares that data about the carcasses and the meat quality also with the feed companies, so we can learn from each other how to improve the meat company, of the meat quality, or maybe the food safety, or maybe the food health. And all kinds of data that are gathered nowadays, we are sharing and trying to use to raise our performance and also be more sustainable. And this is a new topic, this sharing of data. And also this is one of the things we learned throughout the last few years, but we are still learning what I mentioned throughout the years. People keep on having new insights and sharing knowledge. And that's a very important lesson I want to give along. Not only that you can use a crisis or a negative thing to improve and to have lessons learned to improve the situation, but also don't be afraid to share failures with each other, because a failure also gives new insights and makes the opportunity to improve. And these improvements are very important to come to a higher level and to make the industry, but also your own farm or your own company, more profitable. And that was my last slide, I think. Maybe next slide. Yes. Okay, then I thank you very much for your attention. I saw in the line some questions passing, but I did not read them. Maybe Janneke, you can share them with me.
Yes, thank you, Bino. I don't think there are actually questions related to your presentation, but maybe Yui, you can clarify. Are there any questions related to Bino's presentation?
好的，现在就是问各位老师关于刚刚的 PPT， 大家有没有任何疑问？如果有疑问的话，欢迎现在提出来。
I think in the chat there are no questions related to this presentation. Is that right? I can see a question coming in. Can you translate it for us, Yui?
Yes, there's one question. So they're curious about the general managing the general production cost in the Netherlands, and also if you have a higher standard in your farm, then what would be the cost for that? And as a result, the price for the pig that has a higher standard, welfare standard, would the price would be higher, or like is there any like what's the word? A
Yes.
profit for it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good and very important question, because that's what also was the concern of the pig farmers, because consumers said they wanted to pay extra, but how do we organize this? Because that will be the challenge. Regarding our production cost, then I think Robert will go into that. That's the next, the person
Yes.
with the next presentation will go into detail with that. But we have a system that I mentioned these NGOs, these non-governmental organizations who represent the consumers. They are a part of a kind of a committee who is involved in what the extra price would be or should be. So the extra cost of having higher standard of animal welfare, or maybe a higher standard of being climate neutral, is calculated together with these NGOs to get a higher price for that, because it will cost more. It's a very relevant question, and I thank you for the question.
I hope the answer is clear.
And maybe to have an addition on that. That is why I point out that it's very important that when you have a claim on your product, that it's more sustainable, or it's more welfare friendly, or antibiotic free, this claim should be true, and this should be guaranteed. So we have quality systems in our industry where independent organizations do audits throughout the industry, not only on the pig farms, but throughout the industry, to do audits, to report if the regulations are followed, and if everything is in compliance with what we have agreed on.
Okay, thank you, Rino. Okay, yes, got it, thank you, yes. I think there are no more questions related to this presentation. Like I said before, you can still put questions in the chat that we can answer later, or collect the answers and send it in the WeChat group. I see there's another question coming in, Lee. Can you
May I have a
translate?
question?
Can you translate it, Yuri?
Hello. I have a question about the production level. Like the PSY, where the piglets per sow per liter, what's the level? And the ADG, average daily gain in finisher pigs.
Yes, so I think the question is, what's the average PSY for the Dutch industry, and what's the average daily gain? Can you answer that, Vino? And I think that will also be in the presentation of Robert, but maybe you can give a general answer.
General, we are, I think now 31 piglets per sow, but that's the average of within our industry. We have several farms that are way higher, but the average is 31, 32 piglets per sow per year. But it's going up rapidly at the moment, I must say. So the performance is doing very well, and the daily gain is also going. I think it's around almost 1,000 grams a day, so 1 kilogram a day, the daily gain. But also that is going up, and what's also important to mention, that also our feed conversion is improving also very rapidly. So we use less feed for a higher daily gain, and that means that it becomes more profitable. But that has to do with all kinds of the raw materials we use in our feed, but also, and that's why I express this all the time. Healthy pigs are very productive pigs, so the performance of healthy pigs does not only give a lot of piglets per sow per year, but also the feed intake and the feed efficiency becomes a lot better when you have a healthy pig.
Okay, thank you, Mino. I can see that something is added to the question. Yui, can you explain? I cannot see what was added.
Yeah, I just summarized what Wino just explained to Mr. Ma, and that his answers will from Robert. He will get answer from Robert, our next presenter. And there's one other question, is that about the welfare problems about pigs. They're curious about what's the specific aspects about the welfare for the pigs, and there is any like specific examples for pig welfare problems.
what's going on is that they want it's called natural behavior. The public and also our politics want that the pigs can express their natural behavior. So they that means loose housing, not in crates or in boxes anymore, but loose housing, and that's already mandatory in our country. So the pregnant sows are in loose housing, and even now our farrowing houses have become loose housing. So loose housing is very important, but also important that we don't do any all kinds of things that have a huge impact on the animal, like tail docking. I mentioned tail docking is a very big topic at the moment. That we stop tail docking in our industry, and that's quite a challenge. But we have farms and even countries in Europe that are successful in that, and that's a big topic.
Maybe Yui, you can explain again about tail docking, because the translation is not doing that correctly, and also about loose housing of the farrowing sow, because yeah, that's also not translated correctly. Maybe you can explain that, Yui.
And tail docking means that we cut the tail of the piglet when the piglet is young. We cut a part of the tail from the pig, and in the future that will not be allowed anymore. So the pigtail should remain intact.
Exactly.
我稍微总结一下，上面他的回答，他的意思就是说，荷兰目前主要的猪福利问题是涉及到猪能否展示出它的自然行为，然后其中就包括他们现在，有法律规定他们的猪的养殖空间要更大，比如说对于妊娠的母猪而言，它不能再养在限喂栏里面，然后还有就是断尾，目前的话。荷兰现在对于断尾的管控越来越严格，在不久的将来，我记得是在2030年的时候，他们会禁止所有的猪进行断尾，也就是说，在2030年之后，所有猪的尾部都是完整的。这是他们目前主要关注到的几个福利的问题。
Thank you, both Vino and Yui. If there aren't any other questions, I can see, I think these are all the questions for now. I think, well, thank you very much, Vino, for your presentation. Of course, you are also involved still in this project as a coordinator of the Partners in Business program. So you will probably also meet or see participants of this online masterclass in the future, maybe. Then I would like to ask Robert Hoster. Yes, I can already see you, Robert. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Robert will introduce himself and will give a presentation more about the economic factors of the Dutch industry. Also, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, and afterwards we can discuss them. So for now, Robert, the floor is yours, and good luck.
Thank you, Janneke. Good morning, Vino also, and good afternoon, all the people from China. Nice to have you on board or to speak to you. It's just a few months ago that I was in China visiting your country and speaking at the Lehman conference, for example. And let us share about the pig industry in the Netherlands. My name is Robert Hoste. I am senior pig production economist. And I'm working in Wageningen University and Research my entire working life, so more than 30 years. And I will speak about the power of pig production in the Netherlands. So next slide, please. I have 3 topics. in my presentation. The first is about pig production in Europe and the Netherlands, and I'll also show some history. Then the second is about relevant legislation, and we spoke already about animal welfare, tail docking, and antibiotics, but I will also recall that. And the third is a cost comparison and cost saving opportunities. Next. The pig production in Europe. On the map, what you see here is the green regions. They are the most densely populated areas. So the more green, the more pigs are in the region. So that means in the Netherlands, in northern Germany, in Denmark, in part of Poland, in part of Spain, France, and Italy, there are many, many pigs. And how did that come? Well, after the World War II, 80 years ago, there was a saying, we don't want to have hunger anymore. There must be sufficient food for all the people in Europe. And then the agricultural productivity got an impulse, an incentive to be more efficient, to produce more food, and subsidies were given. Farmers were growing their farms, they were more efficient. But then in 1972, there was a group of people worried about the environment. And they said there is a limit to the growth because we are facing now a lot of environmental problems. And since then, there was a change in the agriculture, first focusing on more food, and now rather focusing on saving the planet and being more efficient. Yet there was an industrialization of agriculture. And the nice thing is that still the most of the pig farms are family farms. And I'll show you about that. What are the elements of a family farm? Because that's different from a micro farm or from a large integrator like you have in your country. What we have seen in the couple of decades since the Second World War is also an increasing wealth of the people. So more money to spend on food and other products, but also increasing worries and demands. So worries about the environment, I mentioned already, worries about animal welfare, worries about our food safety, etc. And there's a lot of focus given to that. Not only focus given to that, there's also a lot of pressure on the farmers to change their farming systems. And that is what we have seen in the Netherlands and in the other European countries. Next, please. So we started with Europe. Now we are in the Netherlands. Just some figures on the country. The country size is not very big. Compared to China, we have a very small, a tiny country. We have some 18 million inhabitants, which is less than one big city in your country. But we produce 22 million pigs per year on 3,000 farms. The MSY, and I listened to the discussion before, the MSY amounts to 31 in the Netherlands. That means 31 slaughter pigs produced per sow a year. And I'll give you some more figures because that was asked. The weaned piglets, the PSY, amounts to 32.1. And the difference between 32.1 and 31 is very small. That means there is very little mortality after weaning. And that's maybe a difference to your country where there's a lot of mortality. And it is necessary to put focus on where is the mortality. The pre-weaning mortality amounts to 12.1%. The daily gain of the slaughter pigs amounts to 934 grams per day. And the feed conversion ratio is 2.45. Well, that's about some performance data. Then you have an update about that. Back to the slide. What we see is that some of the farms, part of the farms, do not have any culture land around. So they have a pig farm and no land to produce feed. So they are buying all the feed and they are getting off all the manure. It should be get rid of, and that's it. There's not just a barn with the pigs. And there's the history of that, because in the past there were large families, and one of the typically the son, the oldest son would inherit the farm, and the rest of the children would receive nothing. But they could start a farm without land, and that is how it came to pass. And the way how we work in the Netherlands in the supply chain, in the value chain, is that farms are typically not contracted. So they are individually producers, individual entrepreneurs. They are selling their products to a slaughterhouse, to a processor, but without contract still. In the background of this slide, you see a picture of Rotterdam Harbor. And Rotterdam is quite a big harbor, also seen worldwide. And also for Europe, it's one of the biggest harbors. There's a lot of foodstuffs, human foodstuffs, coming into this harbor and being processed. And that's good for the people in the Netherlands, but also for the rest of Europe. But it's also good for the pigs. And I think we know, mentioned it already, that there are lots of leftovers from this processing industry, and they are fed to the animals. That's good for the circularity. So, for example, wheat production and the leftovers are given to the pigs, or beer production, etc. So there's also a trade mentality, because that's the mentality of the Dutch people. We want to trade. We are along the shore. We can trade anywhere in the world. And that's a kind of, well, our DNA. Now, the Netherlands, although we have a very small country, we have a good soil and a good climate to produce crops. So yes, we do produce some crops also for our pig production, but not too many. And then when it comes to the culture, farmers are used to share information. So there are data sets available where each farmer and also the industry can see what is the performance level of pigs in the Netherlands. So we do know it, and farmers do share it among each other. They are quite open to share this. Also from the government, there is the knowledge and innovation agenda. Knowledge and innovation is a hot topic in the Netherlands. We really want to focus on that. That's one of the reasons why we in Wageningen are quite big, because we're open to build innovation, to share information. That is why Wageningen is also home to more than 100 students from China and more than 120 countries of origin of the other students. The map that I show here on the screen is from the Netherlands, and what we see is that the pigs are mainly housed in the south of the country. This is a very densely populated area in North Brabant and Limburg, in the two provinces, with lots of pigs. And the other area is in the east of the Netherlands, the provinces of Gelderland and Overijssel. So you see, there's a lot of density altogether. Farms are very close together, and yes, that has also negative aspects in terms of manure surplus and in terms of health, or let's say infection risks. But it is also the positive side, and that is that farmers are together and they are very close, close in distance, and they can share information easily. They can visit each other. They can have study clubs. Let's go to the next slide. A description of family farms. We do have different farm types in the Netherlands. So sow farms, on average 900 sows. Finishing farms producing just some 9,000 pigs per year. That's not so much. And also closed cycle farms. About 30% of the total farm numbers is closed cycle farms. So they do have sows and finishing. When it comes to labor, a typical situation on a pig farm in the Netherlands is that the farm owner is working as the main worker, and then 0.33 farm family members, so let's say the spouse or one of the children, is also working on the farm, and then also 1.14 hired worker. So there's not so many hired workers. The farm owner is typically doing the majority of the work. But the labor is very efficient. One person working on the farm can handle 300 sows, and that's very high. Or they can handle the production of about 20,000 pigs. And 20,000 pigs slaughtered per year is really an amount. But then you need automation. You need also a very efficient barn design. We have this focus on the family farm. There's another reason, and that is the financial situation. Because if you have the farm funded by own money, then the risk is lower because it's own capital. You have some cushioning money, you have some buffer. If in bad times, you can make use of your own cash money. If you have good times, you can save money. So that's an advantage of a family farm too. I once heard an entrepreneur saying, my farm should not be too big and my employees should jointly fit at the kitchen table. And his kitchen table, well, the size would then be some 8 persons maybe. So just a few workers on the farm. Next slide, please. I told you already that we have a quite high zootechnical performance, but that didn't come overnight. As you see on the left graph, the PSY and the MSY have grown over time since the 80s in this graph, from 17, the MSY, to 31. So there's an enormous growth, an enormous increase of the MSY, of the sow performance. And this goes on, as you can see in the mathematical formula, every year there's coming some 0.3 MSY added. So we do expect it will further grow in the future. And on the right graph, what we see there is the feed conversion ratio of finishing pigs. And it started in the 50s and 60s of last century with 3.75, going down all the way to about 2.5. I mentioned the 2.45 before, and that is recalculated from the weight range 30 till 120 kilos live weight. So 2.5, 2.45. And that's quite low. Still, there is a lot of variation among the farms. Some farms do have 2.8 or 2.2 even. It's also possible. Next, please. Now there are, next slide. Yeah. Now there are several reasons how this came. And I mentioned 4 elements here and mark the following order. The first one is the economic pressure. The market price in the Netherlands is not too high. It's just enough to survive for the average farmer. And that's also why many farmers quit production, because they simply are not able to manage with this market price. So the market price is low. And then with this market pressure, economic pressure, farmers need to improve their performance in order to survive. That's the most important one. And the second and the third one are related. It's related to data, the use of management information systems. Already very long, all the farmers, all the sow farmers at least, do use a management information system, because it's simply not possible to know all the information of all the sows. And it's not just to record, but it's also being analyzed thoroughly in all the details. And it is very helpful to learn which sow should be handled in what way based on data. So it is data-driven management. And the third is sharing and discussing performance and management decisions. So what I told you, the study clubs and the openness to share data. And then the fourth element is only technology, let's say. So innovative breeding material and feed and equipment. And yes, that's also a relevant factor. But if we wouldn't have had the economic pressure and the use of the data and the exchange of the data, then technology alone would not be sufficient to come to this level of 31 MSY. So what you conclude here from this graph, from this list, is that soft skills are very important alongside the technological innovation. And that's also one of the messages to you. Don't focus on technological innovation alone, but also take care of the human aspect, that the soft skills, that people know what to do, that they are aware of the processes on the farm, and that the people's capabilities are being used. Next, please. So far, I told you the farmers are family farms and not contracted. Not contracted to feed industry, nor contracted to the meat industry, typically. Things, however, are changing. One of the elements is that farmers in the Netherlands are entrepreneurs. So they want to take risks, they want to bear risks, and they want to be free to make their own decisions. That's their choice. They want to be an entrepreneur. Now, the solvency on the farm, that is the share of the own capital, amounts to 70% on average. And that is necessary because what I told you, that is the buffer capacity when it comes to the money, and also the owner who is working on the farm. So these are the strong elements of the family farm: the high own capital and the high share of the farmer work. Now, what is happening to overcome the economic pressure is that we see an increasing economy of scale. So farms are growing over time. As I started my work more than 30 years ago, the average farm size was maybe 150 sows. And nowadays we have the 900 sows, as I told you. So there's an increasing scale of production, increasing economy of scale, but also the increasing zootechnical performance. So there are two answers: increasing farm size, increasing zootechnical performance. And now farmers in the Netherlands, in Europe, are facing a very volatile market situation. So the incomes are very high. Last year, last 2 years were very high, but we also have seen years with very, very low income. And how can farmers survive this volatility? There's fluctuation in market prices of pigs on one hand, of feed on the other hand. Well, that's not very easy. And in my opinion, farmers will be forced to work together into supply chains, so to make contracts to the feed company, to make contracts with the meat industry increasingly in the near future. And I told you we still don't have contracts, but things are changing for a part of the market, and that's the next slide. Yes, right. We do have the Beter Leven program, the Better Life program, and that is an NGO-driven program for animal welfare, where farmers can apply and change the housing system, change the management of the animals to some extent, and then they are being certified as Beter Leven farm. And this is being contracted. So it is an animal welfare program, and all the retailers, all the supermarket organizations in the Netherlands embraced this program. They said, yes, we want to have pig meat only from this Beter Leven program. And that means that, well, I see a question from the chat, castration. Indeed, castration is not allowed. And there is more space for the animals. And well, these are the main elements here. There's more space, so the pigs, the finishing pigs, to have 1 square meter per pig. And there's a lot of extra care. What you see also here is on the top, the picture on top is alfalfa. It is being given to the animals to have more playing material. So that's also a part of the program. But in the lower picture, you see the logo, Beter Leven logo. That is a picture from meat in the shop as being sold in one of the supermarkets in the Netherlands. And it is Beter Leven with 1 star. That's the very common situation. but about 20% of the pigs slaughtered in the Netherlands is produced under this program. And this is being sold to the Dutch retailers. Now, supermarkets want to be sure that they have sufficient supply, and so they contracted their meat processors, who contracted the farmers. So there is some contract. There is a contract for those 20% of the producers, 20 or 25%, who produce for the Dutch retail market. And this is a new development, so to say. It's existing already some 10 years, but I think this is just the start of a further cooperation in the supply chain. So what we will see is that there are increasingly contractual agreements among farmers, between farmers, I mean, and the slaughterhouses. And that is necessary because the market is so volatile that farmers cannot survive it easily. In the next slides, I will show you some pictures of a farm in the Netherlands. Yes, here is the first one. It's a Dutch farm, and this farm had 1,740 sows, and it was for sale a few years ago. So that is, I collected the pictures to show you. Next slide. What we see here is that the farm has a cooled storage for dead animals in the upper left picture. That is outside the farm. It is close to the public road, and all the dead animals are being collected, stored, cooled in this cool tank along the road. And that means that a truck from the company, the rendering company, should not come to the farm, but pick up the carcasses and the dead animals from this cooled storage. So there's a cut in the link between the farm and the public road. This farm has, alongside the sows, also places for guilds, guild raising, and for finishes. Next slide. We see quite some feed silos in the upper left picture, because this farm gave compound feed plus a lot of homegrown ingredients. This farm had some own production of corncob mix, for example, and these are being mixed in the what we call the feed kitchen in the lower right picture. That's the feed kitchen where all the ingredients are being mixed. And yes, the next slide. Sows are being housed in groups. That's also obligatory in Europe. So also in the Netherlands, all the pregnant sows as of 4 days after insemination must be housed in groups. And what we see here is an electronic sow feeding system at the left-hand side. And the other two pictures, middle and right hand, are farrowing room, and there's departments of 20 pens per department and heated area for the suckling piglets. Especially at the right-hand side, we see a heated solid floor for the piglets where they can lay down. What you can see here is a very hygienic stable. It's very nice, and well, it's clean so that the piglets are not being infected. Next slide. And then finally, one slide with pictures from the rearing, the piglet rearing, and some finishing. What we see at the left-hand side, the rearing piglets, they have 0.4 square meter. And they have a trough for feeding. There is some playing material, and at the right-hand side, the pigs, the slaughter pigs, the finishing pigs, are held on 0.8 square meters. And this is a very common situation in the Netherlands. They are not producing for beta leven. Next, please. The second part of my presentation is about the Dutch legislation and regulations. And it is being addressed partly already, so I will go shortly over it, but I want to give you this overview. The first is about animal welfare, and then about environment, on antibiotics, and the circularity approach. Next. When it comes to animal welfare, there is the European legislation. On top of that, the Netherlands has its own additional legislation. And thirdly, there is also some industry regulations. The European regulations say pigs should be kept in a good way, and finishing pigs should have at least 0.65 square meter. The Netherlands says, no, our pigs need to have 0.8 square meter. All the pigs, all the finishing pigs. And the industry program like Beter Leven, they say the pig should have 1.0 square meter. So we see there is a difference of the European level, the national level, and the industry level. And that's just one example. The space allowances are summed up here at 2.25 square meter per pregnant sow. Group housing of pregnant sows after 4 days after insemination, which is also higher than the European standard, because other European countries say 4 weeks after insemination. It is mandatory to have isolation opportunity for sick animals. And it is said mutilations are only allowed if really necessary. But what is really necessary? And then the veterinarian should decide what is necessary. Well, this is the basis for the non-tail docking. It was discussed already before. It is really one of the hot topics in the Netherlands. The lower picture is a pig with an intact tail. And in 5 years' time, it will not be allowed anymore to dock the tails, to cut off the tails. But the farmers are hardly prepared for it. It is really difficult because it is a change in the housing circumstances. There must be sufficient space. The climate must be better than it is on many farms. There must be playing material. Then the feed should be adapted. Well, there are more requirements, and also it requires more labor because the farmer must have more time available to look at the animals for observation. Just looking at the animals, what is going on? Do they start biting? Do they start irritating each other? Then the farmer must be there quickly to separate those pigs. And this requires quite some effort and quite some money. And that's also one of the problems, because who is going to pay for that? It is mandatory, but who is going to pay for the additional costs? So this is quite a challenge. The transport requirements are also there. So regarding the truck loading density, and also on the slaughtering, stunning of the animals before slaughtering should be done well. And I think Vino has been speaking about IKB and industry standards, so I will skip that. Then we go to the next slide. Some points about environmental protection. There must be a manure storage on each farm, either below the slats or as a separate silo, of at least 7 months. And some farms do even have 9 months or 1 year of storage, so that they can sell their manure at the right time. Because it is not allowed to spread the manure on the land just when you want it, but it's only in the season, in the growing season, and to limited amounts of minerals. Farms must have a mineral balance on the farm, so they must show how much manure was produced and where they sold it. Then ammonia emission must be reduced. So the air outlet, well, the outgoing air should be scrubbed, should be washed, as it is seen on the picture, or different ways of reduction, but that is obligatory. And it's up to 85% of reduction, which is quite challenging. Odor reduction is also necessary. And then we have the production rights system. So every farm has a quantity of production rights reflecting the number of animals that is on the farm. So for the number of finishing pigs, the number of sows, you need to have production rights. And there is there's a total number of production rights in the Netherlands. And that means that the total number of pigs cannot grow further because the number of rights, production rights, is limited. When a farm is stopping production, can sell the production rights to another farm who wants to grow, and that is very common. We go to the next slide. And we referred to it already that the antibiotics use has been reduced by some 70%. In this graph, we see for different animal species, the reduction pattern over time, the development of the antibiotics use, and 2009 is the reference year. And since then, the total amount used of antibiotics on pig farms is reduced by 71%. Not only that, it's also the higher level antibiotics, the third and fourth generation, are not allowed or only exceptionally when there's nothing else left. Next, please. The circular agriculture. In the past, it was very common to handle according to what is called the linear economy. And the linear economy says take and then make and then consume and throw away. But things have changed, and now we are more thinking like circular. We do have products, we process them, we reuse them, we recycle them, and then in the end, it's not thrown away, but it's reused. And this is to save the environment.
Robert, maybe I need to interrupt you, but I see that the translation is gone.
I saw.
I don't know, Mark, if you can put it back.
Yeah, hold on. I have to pay some more credits.
Okay.
So we'll take a couple of minutes, right?
Okay.
Fine.
So I have to reinstall. Maybe Huey, you can translate that in the group. So we need to reinstall the translation tool. So it will take a couple of minutes.
大家
Well,
好，请
I
大家
said
稍微等一下，就是我们这个翻译工具需要再花多几分钟的时间去重新安装在我们这个会议里面。
Janneke, there are two questions in the chat.
Yes, maybe we can
So
look at those.
let me address them indeed. So at least two that I can read, let's say. What about castration of piglets? Well, within the Beta Leven program, it is not allowed to castrate. And also outside, some of the piglets are not being castrated, the males. That means that about half of the male piglets is not being castrated. Please translate.
就是刚刚提到的更好生活的那个福利项目里面，它里面的所有仔猪是不允许阉割的。然后荷兰的话，现在50%的公猪也是不阉割的。
And the other question that I can read at least is about antibiotics. If you would completely ban antibiotics, then sick pigs cannot get a treatment. Well, it is not a complete ban, but all farmers are stimulated to reduce the use of antibiotics. And especially when you have zero or almost zero antibiotics, then you're doing perfect. But it must always be possible to apply antibiotics when they would become sick.
Okay, thank you.
It's being translated. Yeah.
Yeah, please, can you translate it, Huey?
Yeah, sure. Robert 意思就是说，荷兰现在并没有完全禁止抗生素的使用，只说大家会主动的、意愿性的去减少抗生素的使用。但如果出现了病猪的情况，不得不用抗生素，他们也是会用的。
Okay, we go
Okay.
with the
Yes, the
circular
translation is
agriculture.
back, so yes.
Yeah, indeed. So when it comes to the next slide, please. We started to speak about the circular agriculture, and it was mentioned already by Wino. So it's in the past we had this linear economy, just to take products and use it and see, well, there is some garbage left. And now the circular approach is focusing on reusing it, recycling, and reducing garbage, or to prevent garbage at all. And What we see in the lower picture is, I think it's wheat starch. It's a leftover product from the wheat processing for bread, and this is being fed to pigs. This is from a feed bin in a pig farm. We go to the next slide, the third part of my presentation, and that's about the cost comparison and cost saving opportunities. Next, please. In my work, I am used to travel around and to see several countries, pig production in different countries. But apart from traveling around, we're also calculating the cost of production. And the graph on this slide is from Interpig. Interpig is a group of pig production economists like me, and I'm chairing this group. We have 18 countries, a member of this group, and we do compare cost of production in a harmonized way. So these outcomes are quite well comparable. And these are the cost of production per kilogram hot carcass weight in 2023. So 2 years ago now. What we see in the graph is per country a bar, and it is split into feed costs, in other variable costs like energy and veterinarian, then the labor cost in gray, and the finance cost in yellow. And finance costs include housing costs. Now what we see is that the differences are quite big, and it starts with the Netherlands and Denmark, and then Germany and Belgium and France and Spain, and these differences are not so big. But then we come to other countries like Austria or Ireland or Great Britain or Italy, and they have clearly higher cost of production. Why? Because their feed is more expensive, because the efficiency is a little bit lower, and the labor is more inefficient, let's say. But when we go to the very right-hand side of the graph, we see Brazil in two areas and the USA. Brazil MT stands for Mato Grosso in the center of Brazil, and Brazil SC is Santa Catarina at the coast. That's the classic pig production area. So we see very low production cost, but nice to have low production cost. For example, in Mato Grosso, it is about €1.25 per kilo hot carcass weight, compared to €1.90 in the Netherlands. But they produce pigs, and then they have to sell the meat to transport the meat to the coast and then export it to somewhere. And there we see the additional cost. So nice to have low production costs, but we also should add the processing cost and the transport cost before it is being exported. Now, what we also see from this graph is that the feed cost part, the blue area, is to some extent quite comparable among all those countries. So the feed cost is receiving a lot of focus to reduce it, and that's good. And you could do it also in China. Well, and also the feed is some 60% or 70% of the total production cost. Let's now dive into the difference among China and the Netherlands. Next slide. And I made a comparison a couple of years ago in 2021, as the feed price was very, very high. Also in your country, we had very expensive feed. And there I made this calculation or estimate. I calculated a cost of production of 18 yuan per kilo live weight. This is live weight, compared to 10 yuan in the Netherlands. And I'm pretty sure quite some of your integrators will be able to work cheaper than this. But this is just an approach to make some comparison and to give insight into where you can make a difference. So what we see is that the feed cost in this comparison in China amounted to 14.2 yuan per kilo and only 6 in the Netherlands. How is that possible? Well, the feed price and the feed efficiency are two very important elements. and I'll show you in the next slide. Next, please. Because in that calculation, we see the feed efficiency showed a difference of 50%. So the feed conversion ratio in the finishing in my calculation was 50% higher in China than in the Netherlands. And again, I'm pretty sure you are able to do it better, but I challenge you. Then the feed price in China was at that moment 65% higher than in the Netherlands. And the MSY, the slaughter pigs produced per sow and year, I took 40% lower in China. Then there is the leverage effect. As you can see in the picture, it's a combination of a lower feed efficiency, a higher feed price, and then also the MSY, which is different. And then in the end, the total cost of production is resulting in 80% higher in China than it is in the Netherlands. I gave you some nuances. Yes, large producers are able to do better. And yes, the feed prices are much lower now. But the factor is that is a combination of higher feed price because it is higher in your country, and the lower feed efficiency is adding up and makes a difference. And I'm sure that the cost of production in China is higher, and that is shown from the market price, because the market price in your country is some €2.5 at least on average. Over the time, couple of years on average, then you see €2.5, and that is much higher than we have in the Netherlands. Let's go to the next slide. We see a lot of variation among countries in the MSY and in the feed efficiency, and that's also what is reflected in this graph. Again, the same countries, but now only the European countries in this graph. There are shown two elements, two parameters. The blue bar shows the MSY, the pigs sold per sow and year, and you see the Netherlands has the 31 and Denmark has 33 MSY, 32, sorry, 32. And other countries are lower, like Spain. So that is the MSY, that is the sow performance. And then the OFCR is the overall feed conversion ratio. The overall feed conversion ratio is the total feed use on the closed cycle farm. So the sow feed, the piglet rearing feed, and also the finishing feed. All in all, divided by the total output weight from the finishing. And then we see a lot of variation, and that is given on the screen also the MSY. Some countries have as low as 14, and others have as high as 32. I calculated it from the statistics from China, and I come to an average in your country of 17. Well, there is a lot of room then to improve. And I know there's an average and there's a lot of variation. So yes, you do have companies with an MSY of 20, 24, and that's possible in your country, definitely. And then the overall feed conversion ratio, 2.4 is the lowest in Brazil and in the Netherlands, but some countries do have 4 or even 5. There are many reasons for that. The feed quality, genetics, animal health, housing management, but also the pressure on the farmers to reduce the feed costs just to survive. Next slide. Also within a country, there's a lot of variation because it's nice to compare it internationally, but within a country, there's a lot of variation. And even within a farm among pigs. But here I show you the Netherlands data from farms in the Netherlands, individual outcomes. And we see the feed conversion in the finishing, where some farms have as low as 2.22 and others have as high as 3.3. Well, there are some organic farms within this group, and these do have the higher level of feed conversion ratio, and the main group is somewhere between 2.2 and 2.9. Now, feed saving is a substantial effect when it comes to your profit, the farm profits, because every 0.1 kilo feed per kilo gain brings some 3 to 4 euro per slaughter pig. So every slaughter pig, you can save 3 to 4 euro per 100 grams of feed saved. Therefore, it is highly beneficial to focus on. What can you do to reduce the feed conversion ratio? High content feed, multi-phase feeding. So in finishing, that they start with the young pigs with specific feed composition. When they grow older, they have a different feed composition. And when they grow old, just before slaughtering, they do not have too much energy, but mainly protein. So it is a suitable feed composition. And that is adapted during the living time. A correct feed curve to group pigs according to their weight. But also, my final point is design of troughs and equipment. And that is what I show in the picture. I made this picture in some Asian country. It's a feed trough, but you see that there are slats in front of the trough. And what will happen if you know a little bit the behavior of pigs, you know that pigs are moving their snout and they are throwing out the feed also. And here it will be immediately falling into the pit. So the feed is lost. So why not make a solid floor just in front of the feed trough? Then they can eat it again. You know, such simple solutions might be very helpful. That's about feed efficiency. Let's go to another example. Non-productive days per sow. Next. Yeah, the non-productive days per sow. I compare two countries here. And I don't give the name of the country, it is some Asian country, but I made a histogram of farms with their calculated non-productive days. And non-productive days are days when the sows are not pregnant and not lactating. So they include the days between weaning and first insemination. And the non-productive days in one country with the blue line, you see there is a peak around 10 to 20 days, and then some farms do have 20 to 30 days and a little bit longer. Yeah, that's the one country, country X. But some countries do even have more than 60 and 70 days lost, non-productive days per sow. When a farm has 70 non-productive days per cycle, then you can imagine the very, very low farm farrowing index, and their PSY and MSY must be very low too. And this reflects a lack of management skills, a lack of observation skills. And maybe there is some disease going on individual farms that can happen. But this is a very helpful parameter to focus on. And then the orange line is in another that is in the Netherlands, where almost all farms do have between 10 and 20 days non-productive. Some farms a little bit higher, and that's it. So that reflects the quality of the management skills. Let's go to the next point, also a management option to save costs. We are speaking about cost comparison and cost saving opportunities. Well, if a pig is to die, what's the optimal time? Well, you don't want a pig to die, but if it must die, then in the slaughterhouse, please, because there it has fulfilled its task. So in the abattoir. And if pigs are dying before, then try to do it as early as possible. And I show it in the little pictures, the three on a row. When a piglet is born, then with the current market situation, the value of a just born piglet is 28 euros. When it is weaned at 39 euro, when it goes to the finishing barn at 25 kilos, its value, market value is 62 euro, and at slaughtering, it is 185 euro. So if a pig is to die, then try to have it as early as possible. And that is why some farms are very critical on survival opportunities of piglets when they are very young. They prefer to kill them very young if they say this piglet will not be able to survive and not bring it to the slaughterhouse. So as early as possible. And next slide. Then I'm almost through my presentation. What is necessary for good management? Management is related to technology, what we call here machine in this picture. It's also related to data, to the user management information system, but very important also to awareness. Or to put it differently, it is hardware, that's the blue block. It is software, that's the green area with the data. And it is also what I call mindware. So awareness, what is going on in your head? Do you really understand all those processes? And all the three are necessary on the farm. It's not only technology. Some people would trust on technology and hope that they can reach to a very high performance level. You cannot. You have to combine it with the software, with the user management systems to data exchange, information exchange, and also this mindware. So the awareness, not only awareness of managers, but also their managers of your workers. The workers should also be trained. They should be given responsibility if they can bear. They should be given room to make use of their own minds, to be aware of what is going on. And it would be the nicest that if on your farms that your farm workers are telling you, look, I saw this sow doing this or that behavior, what should we do, rather than just following protocols. So you have workers on your farm, let them be also observants. They can observe, they can see, they can be aware of what is necessary. So involve them and make use of their skills. Then next slide. The smart farming, it was mentioned by Vino also. What is smart farming? Smart farming is coming from the fourth industrial revolution. And yes, it's also applied in agri-food. It is technology, it is AI, it is big data, it is making use of smart technology, of chips, etc. And there are ample opportunities to improve pig production because you can make use of cameras, you can use sensors, microphones, you can use a sensor in the ear of a pig that is measuring, for example, the heartbeat or measuring the temperature. And based on that, it is possible to measure when they come in heat or well, whatever behavior. Aggression can be measured, daily gain can be measured individually. And if that is done, then you are focusing on livestock precision farming, as it is called. Livestock precision farming means that pigs are followed individually and managed individually rather than group-wise. And that gives a lot of opportunity. But not every person, not every farmer, not every entrepreneur is willing to do so. Some activities are simple and you don't need to use a lot of brains. That is cleaning activities, for example. But then in this triangle, we see the next level, that is zootechnical activities, moving pigs from one area to another or helping birth. You need to have more skills for that. You need to have more training to know how to handle the pigs. And then another level is farm management skills to oversee all the processes and to take care of anything that is to be done on the farm. And only, that is my hypothesis, only if you can handle that, you can and should make use of smart technology, smart farming practices. It is not a way to cover mismanagement. It is not a way to show, look, we have very nice smart technology on the farms. No, it should be helping, it should be supporting the rest of the management based on the basic activities, the simple, the zootechnical activities, and the farm management skills. And that brings me to the final slide, the take-home messages. I was speaking to you about the family farm, and I think it is a strong model because it's based on the own effort, the own input of labor and money of the farmer. Then we spoke about top performance. How is it possible that in the Netherlands, the MSY at 31 is almost the top of the world? Well, it's a combination of market pressure and soft skills, and then also the technological innovation. Not technology alone, but it's the combination. Then I was speaking about, third, the human factor. It is paramount. Give a responsibility to farm workers where possible, what they can bear. Make use of their drive and let them share knowledge rather than just following protocols. The fourth point of my take-home messages is that if you want to save costs, then start with the feed, because it's about 60 or 70 or sometimes even 80% of the total cost. So focus on feed efficiency. And I gave you a couple of opportunities on how to save feed costs. And then finally, we spoke about smart farming. It can be very helpful, yes, but awareness of what is going on the farm, the process awareness is then conditional. And that's, thank you for your attention, says the next slide. Shishi. Janneke, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I was having a technical issue with my mouse. So thank you very much, Robert, for your extensive presentation. I think it gave us a really good insight in, well, the strong points of the Dutch industry and also good take-home messages for Chinese farm managers and people working on the farm. I can see that there are several questions in the chat.
I see.
I'm not sure. I think the first one is in Chinese. Yui, can you help us out with the first question sent in by Xavier?
Let me
I see one in Chinese and also one about genetics, but I think there was a question at 9:31, which I don't understand because it's in Chinese.
Maybe he translated it already because there's translation.
Yes,
just after.
maybe. Can you see it, Yui?
Oh, okay. Let me see. Oh, so they're asking about the legislation in the Netherlands. So if I understand correctly, 4 days after insemination, the pregnant cells will move to group housing conditions. And
Right.
for this situation, it will last till they move to the farrowing house, right? So all the
Until
time.
1 week before farrowing, before the expected farrowing, they stay in the group 1 week. 1 week before farrowing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And they're curious about the farrowing rate, like the average in the Netherlands.
Good question. I don't have it in my mind right now, but I can have a look at it, try to find it. Hold on, go ahead with the question, please. I'll have a look to find this figure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see the second question. One more matching.
Yeah, I think I see some questions about genetics, about breeding, about boars, about semen quality. I think it's good to take those questions to the next session because we will have an extensive presentation by Topics Northwind on genetics and breeding. So I think those questions will be answered in the next session.
OK，陈先生，您的问题就是因为之后的这个线上大师班，他们还会请托配课的人来，然后有关育种的和那个，比如说精液的这些跟育种相关的问题，您可以留到等托配课的人来的时候跟他们进一步探讨。What is
Yes.
the? And I think
There's also a question about what is the average weight of a pig when it is slaughtered? I think we
That's
can answer
live weight
that.
is 125 kilos. And slaughter weight, carcass weight is 100 kilos.
Yes. Then I see some more questions in Chinese, I think, Huey, or
Yeah,
did
there's
you
one.
already?
Fast forward to 2043. I'm curious about that question because I know what it is referred to, but what is
Okay.
the question exactly?
Okay, let me translate the question. So, Frank is saying that he already read your article about fast forward to 2043, and he is really curious about what's your opinion about the AI, the technology would have what kind of aspects or reforms about the whole pig farming.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. In that paper, I'm focusing on all the opportunities of AI, and I was calling it Peak Brother as a system with all the combination of sensors, cameras, and what I mentioned. So I think there will be differentiation among farms. There will be farms where the owner, the entrepreneur decides to install all this technology for counting pigs, for watching the behavior, for monitoring aggression, to measure daily gain, to know, sorry, to know exactly the heat moment, the moment that the sow comes in heat. Many aspects can be monitored, can be observed. And then comes the challenge to the farm workers, also to the farm owner, farm manager, to decide what is being done. You can have more precise management on individual level of animals. So that is what I called the livestock precision farming. So precise management based on all the technology. Some farms will handle that, will do so. Other farmers will not do, and they will lose. They will lose position. They will not be able to survive because the main driver behind this is not the availability of technology, but the lack of workers. Especially when there's a lot of animal welfare demand, then you need a lot of eyes of workers on the farm who look at the animals. And as the workers are not available, you can replace it partly, only partly, by technology. So cameras looking at the animals, seeing what is going on, measuring automatically the risk of aggression. And this can really help, but only for those farms who are willing to apply it.
And also, of course, I think, Robert, when you see something, you also have to take action. And that also comes to the workers, of course.
And their technology can be very helpful.
Yes,
But
technology
only to
combined
support.
with skills. Yes.
Exactly. It's the combination.
Okay. I hope this answers the question. I see there's another question in Chinese. Can you translate that, Huey?
Okay, so the next question is about the production rights. So the maximum amount of pigs, live animals you can keep in your farms. They're curious about what conditions or aspects is considered when setting up this limitation.
Yeah. Actually, it was founded in 1984 already, so quite some time ago, where the Ministry of Agriculture faced a lot of manure production in the Netherlands, and they wanted to reduce it. And then they said, based on the actual number of animals that you have, you get a certain amount of production rights. So how many sows do you have, plus how many finishing pigs do you have, times some factor, and that's the number of production rights that some farmer received. The system was changed meanwhile a couple of times, but that doesn't matter because the basis is the same. You need one production right for one finishing pig. And for a sow, they need to have 2.74 production rights. And they can be traded. So from one farmer to another. And we see there is a vivid trade of production rights and they have quite some value.
Thank you. I hope this answers this question. And I also see another question. How do farmers dispose of manure if they don't have enough land?
Yeah, okay. Well, they have to sell it. and they have to pay for that. So there are manure traders who have good contacts to, on one hand, pig farmers, and on the other hand, to arable farmers, to manure processors, and also to farmers abroad. So the manure, the pig manure is being processed, is heated, and then transported to Germany, for example, or to northern France, then it's exported. But it's also being transported to the north of the Netherlands, where there's ample land, to arable land, and well, the trader is receiving money for that, and even the recipient of the manure is receiving money for it. Getting rid of the manure is very expensive, but farmers have to. They cannot keep it on the farm because they have this mineral balance system. So they have to get rid of this manure. And at this moment, they have to pay some 37 euros per ton of manure. And that's really a burden for the farmers.
Yes, so that's an extra cost increasing thing for the pig farmers in the Netherlands.
Yes, and that is more than in other countries. So this is a negative aspect in the competitiveness. In Germany, there are some areas where the manure is also very expensive to be sold. But in other parts of Europe, the manure has a zero value or even positive value. So this is a burden for the Netherlands. Yeah. But let me tell you what is going on in the Netherlands at this moment. There is an exit scheme. It was opened last year or the end of 2023 already. And farmers could apply to the system and say, okay, I want to quit my farm. And then the government is going to pay for the value of the farm buildings and also the value of the production rights. So farmers could receive money to quit their farm. And this resulted in farms going to be stopped right now. At this moment, farmers are stopping their production. And also the entire year 2025 will be used to stop production. And we will face a reduction of some 10, 12% of the pigs, 10 to 12%. So we will see also lower manure production. And that is good news to the farmers, because then we hope that it will become a little bit cheaper to get rid of it.
Yes, because that's also a market situation, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, I see one more question. It's in Chinese. Can you translate it, Yui?
Yeah, sure. So the question is about Robert has mentioned that the Dutch producers are also under significant pressure from the market trends. So they're curious about, for the Dutch farmers, do they primarily supply the domestic market, or do they also export to other European countries? And what is the situation about the pork trade in the European market?
Yeah, so a couple of questions. The Netherlands is producing about 3 times more than what we consume ourselves. So yes, we are exporting 2/3 of the total production. And it is mainly being exported to European destinations, to all European countries, but also it is being exported to non-European destinations, including China, including all Asian countries, including destinations in Africa, in America. So this is a world market situation. And that means that farmers in the Netherlands are also influenced by market volatility in China, for example. When you had the African swine fever in 2019, there was a huge demand from all over the world for you to fill the gap, the demand of pig meat, and the prices in the Netherlands, in Europe, were rising to enormous levels, unprecedented levels for the farmers. So they were making money because you had this disease. And the other way around happens also. If there is more than enough meat in the world at the moment, then the price will be under pressure. Now, what is the situation in Europe? That is what you asked also. The situation in Europe at this moment is that there is quite a balance between supply and demand. So the market price is good, not too good, but it's good. Farmers are making money. And we see that there are expectations for this year, 2025, that the total pig meat production will grow some 1 to 2%. That means that there is an additional supply, and probably the end of the year, the market price will then become under pressure because there's more supply and the demand is not growing. So there is a disbalance and the market price will go down a bit. So this year, 2025, will be a bit worse than last year, 2024. Now, Europe as a whole is also exporting meat. We have a self-sufficiency degree, as it is called, of 120%. So 20% of the total production must be exported. And that is including offals, edible offals, like the ears and the tails and the guts and the heads, etc. But that's only part of the story. It's also muscle meat, and that is being exported to any destination in the world.
Okay, thank you for your extensive answer, Robert. I think that that is really clarifying things. There's another question in the chat. The profitability level of breeding pig farms and fattening pig farms, which is more?
Typically breeding farms. And that is because it is more challenging to produce piglets than to produce finishing pigs. And there are less farmers who are really able to produce piglets in a competitive way than there are finishing farmers. It's easy to have just a barn and to put therein a few hundred of finishing pigs and that's it. You look at them once a day and you give them some feed and there's a little bit of care for them. You need to take care of them, but compared to the more complex management of a sow farm, of breeding, it's more easy, let's say. And that is also why the margins on breeding farms are higher than on finishing farms.
Okay, thank you. I think there aren't any more questions. I remember there was a question at the start about the training program. So I will come back to that. It was put in by Yao Shi. There's a question, I wonder if there is any scholarship or allowance that we can apply for the practical training program. Well, we will look into that and we will discuss this, and maybe there are some opportunities that we can come back to you later during the online masterclass sessions. I think that is what we can tell you for now. Well, I think for now, Robert, I want to thank you for your contribution. A very nice presentation. If there are any questions later on, we will contact you to answer them maybe. And yes, I really want to thank you and address to the participants the next online masterclass. So that will be next Tuesday, January 14th, same time. We will send the link to enter this online masterclass again in the WeChat groups. And the subject of this meeting will be animal health management and biosecurity. So we will have several expert lectures going into detail on this subject. And it goes from general management to biosecurity management. Also, genetics will be part of this masterclass. And also data collection and data management. So for now, I'm wishing you a very good evening. And thank you very much for your attention. Again, I also want to thank the organizations that shared the link to this masterclass. And we have recorded this masterclass, and we will see if we can share it in some way or make it available to people that were not able to join the masterclass until the end. So please, if you have any questions in between the masterclasses, you can also always ask them in the chat. Mark, do you have any?
Yeah, I was just going to say we use this translation tool. And as we may have seen altogether, it's not been really educated in agricultural terms.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if the translation has been worthwhile. If you would respond in the WeChat, if we should proceed with this, we would like to know.
Yeah, and also if you have any recommendations maybe for a tool you are using in China, maybe to translate, that could also be a good option.
Yeah.
For
I can
now,
see that
indeed, it doesn't recognize all the words from the industry, so that can be challenging.
And it's also, you have to really say big.
Yes.
And you see it says big. So
Yes.
the nuances are lost a little bit, but hopefully it helps at least on average and generically to understand what all these people in English are telling.
Yes. Okay, I think for now we can conclude this master class, and by saying that we are very happy that a lot of you have followed this online masterclass, and we are happy to see you again next week, January 14th at 3 o'clock Chinese time. So thank you very much. Robert, also thank you.
Yeah.
And see
And
everyone next
and
week.
thank you,
And
Vino, of course.
Vino, I don't know if Vino is still there,
Oh, okay.
but Vino, of course, also thank you. And of course, Yui, thank you very much for your translation. See you all next week.
Bye.